Nathaniel Hawthorne's take on the Puritan religion, and more specifically, the religious hypocrisy, presented by Brooke Mill. So we'll begin with Hawthorne's upbringing. Hawthorne was raised in Salem, Massachusetts in a Puritan household. Though growing up in this Puritan household, it is obvious that he did not agree with much of his Puritan religion. His works go deep to reveal the truth of what Puritan beliefs were truly like. Fortunately, he was able to live a life of faith, though it might not have actually fit the standards of the Puritans. So, two of the most important works which contain religious hypocrisy by Nathaniel Hawthorne were The Minister's Black Veil and Young Goodman Brown. Starting with the story of Young Goodman Brown, we can immediately notice the significance of the names of the characters, which are ultimately symbolic for their true identities. For example, Young Goodman Brown's wife's name is Faith. This is because she represents his faith in God, but was also a very religious person herself. So, Young Goodman Brown is a husband. He is seen going into the forest with a very mysterious man. Initially, he believed that none of his family would ever sin or do anything like this. He then discovers through this man that they had, in fact, secretly sinned in the forest. He lost trust after finding this out. He was then able to see the darkness within all of the people among him. He realized that they were not as faithful as he initially thought. But in reality, he could not blame these people because he was no better than they. Moving on to The Minister's Black Veil, a story about a minister going into a sermon one day wearing a black veil. This veil represented his sins and past mistakes, which the others clearly could not accept him for. Mr. Hooper's sermon showed the people of the church that nobody could hide their perfect selves forever. They understood his reasoning for wearing this black veil, but they shut him out because they did not want to admit to their past doings. This quote, when the minister was on his deathbed, he says, "When man does not vainly shrink from the eye of his Creator, loathsomely treasuring up the secret of his sin, then deem me a monster, for the symbol beneath which I have lived, and die. I look around me, and lo, on every visage a black veil." By saying this, the minister meant that everybody had sinned and made mistakes in the past. People strive to avoid admitting things that they do not want to confess. Those who avoided him because the veil were no better than he was. Moving forward, it is important for us to understand exactly what religious hypocrisy is. By definition, this regards to a person who pretends to have moral and or religious beliefs and principles that he or she does not actually possess. We can see Hawthorne's feelings about religious hypocrisy in this quote that states, "No man for any considerable period can wear one face to himself and another to the multitude, without finally getting bewildered as to which may be the true." This quote really shows and grasps the idea of what religious hypocrisy was like back into the 1800s. After analyzing these texts, we can see which factors of Puritanism that Hawthorne found most troubling. This includes forgiveness, the equivalence of symbols and objects to evil, and besetting sins. These go along with Hawthorne's negative feelings towards religious hypocrisy. The Puritans thought that while God could forgive any sin, they could only forgive the people that they observed a change in that person. Nobody could forgive Mr. Hooper after he revealed his faults. Even though he had just sinned, Young Goodman Brown could not forgive the others when they saw the others sin. To continue, the equivalence of symbols and objects to evil was another problem that Hawthorne had. The dark forest is one of these, and it may also be observed in Young Goodman Brown. The Puritans believed that the forest was a prohibited area where only bad things could happen. They believed that the unknown and the wildness jeopardized their security. They would be doing one of the greatest sins of all if they went into the forest. In conclusion, Hawthorne's feelings towards Puritanism can be shown in many of his pieces. In specific, The Minister's Black Veil and Young Goodman Brown examine the aspects of Puritanism that Nathaniel Hawthorne found the most troublesome and how being in a Puritan household influenced his thoughts. And here are the citations which inspired this presentation.